It's a Google, the Google Developer Students Club, Dedan Kimathi University. It's in Kenya. Outside here, I'm a Catholic student. I'm currently doing my attachment. I'm internship. Yeah. So yeah, as Clifford said, the Ask Me Anything series is a series where we get to talk about soft skills. And yeah, today we're talking about digital networking skills, yeah, especially in LinkedIn. Yeah, so should we wait for other like so that you can be at least 10 participants to start, or we start right now?
Yes, I think we can just start. Maybe Scott can do an intro, then just get started.
Okay, you want me to get started right now?
You can just like give an intro about yourself.
Sure.
We'll just start.
So welcome everyone. I know some people are probably going to be coming in. It's morning time for me, but I hear it's evening time for you. So I appreciate you joining us. I'll just give a really quick introduction of myself, and then we're going to jump right into the content. My name is Scott Asai. I am a keynote speaker. What I primarily do is I help teach soft skill strategies to companies, such as leadership, emotional intelligence, and communication. And I primarily work with managers and executives. So if people are struggling in those areas, the companies normally hire me to either do a workshop or do some coaching with them. So today, I'm excited to share a little bit about my experience with LinkedIn and the idea of online or digital networking. For those of you who sounds like the majority of the people in the audience are college students, and I will tell you right off the bat that LinkedIn is very important. If you do not have a LinkedIn profile, you need to get one. And don't worry if you just have one and don't know what to do with it, because we're going to talk a little bit about the tactics in terms of what to do today. So why don't do you want me to get started, Pamela? Or do you want me to wait?
Can we wait for like 3 minutes? Then
Sure.
Okay, I think maybe members of the audience, you can maybe give an intro. If you're able to speak, you can just give an intro about yourself as we wait.
Yeah. Igwe Acha.
Yeah, my name is Abraham, and I'm watching or joining live from Ghana. Actually, I've gotten admission in Albertus Magnus College in USA, and hopefully I'll be leaving for the program in the fall of this year. And I have subscribed for the AMA, and I'm joining the service live from Ghana, and I'm hoping to get the best. Actually, I'm very new to all these technologies and everything on the platform, and hoping to get the best from the program. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's really nice, Abraham, joining us from Ghana. I'm wishing you all the best in the program. Yeah. So who else wants to introduce themselves?
Hello, good evening from Nigeria. My name is Igwe Acha. I'm joining you from eastern part of Nigeria. I'm also new to the space, but I was just very much interested in the topic, which is digital networking, because I have technical skills. I'm a software developer, but I believe I'm lacking in the terms of digital networking. And that's why I've joined space. Thank you.
That's great. I think soft skills are as important as your skills. So that's a really good thing to join us today. Who else wants to introduce as one last person? Eric, can give a try.
Hello all, can you hear me?
Hello.
Okay, so I'm Eric Mwenda. I'm a student at Dedan Kimathi University in Nyeri, Kenya. I've heard about something to do with I've heard something to do with LinkedIn, and I'm one of the major victims. Like I've been a software engineer for quite a lot of time, but I'm so weak when it comes to digital marketing, digital networking. Like I set up my LinkedIn like 3 years ago, and still today I don't know what to put in there. It's just lies around. So this kind of session can be quite insightful for me. So I am hoping to learn a lot from you. Thank you.
Yes, you're in the right place, Eric. Okay, so I'll hand it over to Scott.
Okay, well, let's get started. I appreciate the introductions. For those of you who obviously want to connect a little bit later, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to throw in my LinkedIn profile, and feel free to send me a connection. I promise you I will not reject it. I will accept it. And if you want to message me and have a conversation, Clifford can vouch for me. I will get back to you. I also too want to start with a question, and you can type this in as I talk, because I want to sort of multitask and get through as much as we can, because I do want to save the bulk of the time that we have together to be able to do question and answer, because this is, the Ask Me Anything section, right? So I want to make sure that I can answer the questions that you have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a question, and go ahead and type your answers in the chat as I start. What do you want to know about LinkedIn? What do you want to know about online or digital networking? Go ahead and type those into the chat as I begin. So we're going to start with just, why is LinkedIn even important? I think that's a thing, is, you may hear from other people that you need to be on there. You need to be active on there, right? But why? Well, why is it even important? Okay, so let me tell you 3 things. Number 1, if you want a job, especially in the technology field, LinkedIn is where recruiters live. Okay, 99%, probably 100% of people, when they look for candidates, all right, even if you are not looking for a job, sometimes the most attractive candidates are those who are passive, which means they have a job. They're not looking for a job, but recruiters are looking for people who already are working and have experience, right? Obviously you're probably familiar with Google, right? When people want to know a little bit about you, they're going to Google your name, right? Well, when a recruiter wants to know who you are, they're going to go on LinkedIn, they're going to look for you. Okay, that's going to be the first thing. So number 1 is, LinkedIn is important because that's where recruiters live, all right? Number 2, I actually probably shot too fast to do this, but when people do Google searches now, all right, on companies and people, they're going to look in LinkedIn. So if you are ever applying for a job and you want to know a little bit more about the company, yes, you can go to the website, but you can also go to LinkedIn and look at the company's profile. You can also search for people who work at the company if you want to do informational interviews, or you just want to get a better sense of what type of people actually get these jobs. Or if you're applying to a job that somebody already maybe has the same position, LinkedIn is a great place to do some research, all right? And the third and final reason why LinkedIn is really important is because the formatting in LinkedIn is a lot cleaner than a resume is. In my opinion, resumes are on their way out. Quite frankly, I don't even know why people use them in the first place, because we have digital things like LinkedIn. The formatting is already there for LinkedIn. All you need to do is plug in the information that you have and you're ready to go. So think of LinkedIn as what blogs used to be 5 years ago, when people would ask you, oh, do you have a website? Do you have a blog, right? Now, I think it's still important to have a website, a personal website. You want to get your name and have that URL. But honestly, what's really more important than that is to have a LinkedIn profile, okay? Think of it as your live resume. You can always make changes, right? You can show people what your skills are. You can show them how much of a thought leader you are in terms of your comments, right? So now that we've established that LinkedIn is important, right? Let's talk a little bit about how you can make yours better, all right? Because that's what it's about, all right? So I'm going to start with a study that they did on LinkedIn, what they call a heat map, okay, in terms of aesthetics, what they look at, okay? So when people go to your LinkedIn profile, they spend on average 5 seconds looking at it, right? And you're saying to yourself, well, what can you actually learn in 5 seconds, all right? Well, this is what people look at in order of importance. Number 1, they look at your photo. Do you have a headshot? Is it professional? Is it clear? Does it portray a professional image of you, all right? And really, you don't need to go get professional headshots. You need to take a nice shot of yourself, maybe in some nice clothes with a good background, possibly outside, on your phone, and put it in there, all right? Number 2, they look at your headline, all right? Your headline is right underneath And if you look at my I typed my profile, and if you want to use that as an example, right underneath there, right, I typed in, I think, TEDx speaker, and I typed in soft skills. Okay, those are the things that I want to be found for. Okay, and so that's a number 2 thing. And if you're curious about how to optimize that, I'm going to type in a link right now. Okay, that's a link to be able to optimize your LinkedIn profile in general. Okay. Okay, so we talked about photo, we talked about headline. The third thing they look at is your summary or your bio, right? That's the about section, right? In those things, you're sort of telling your story. You also want to make sure that you have the keywords that you want to be found for. So for myself, I make sure that I have soft skills in there, because when people search for soft skills, I want to come up, because that's primarily what I talk about, right? You also want to have somewhat of a call to action. When people read your summary, what do you want them to do with it? Do you want them to contact you? Are you going to offer them? Are you going to give them something free? It's up to you, but you want them to act on it. You want them to read it and be able to do something with it, okay? And ultimately, you want to have a little bit of your experience in there, right? When someone is reading your story, they want to know, what are you about? What have you done before? What are you studying? What are you learning, right? And then the last thing is, if they get to it, is they get to your latest experience, all right? And why that is important is because people want to know, what are you doing now? Okay, now, when I say experience and you say to yourself, well, I'm a college student, I haven't had a job yet, right? Have you volunteered anywhere? Are you interning anywhere? Are you working on a personal project? Okay, experience doesn't mean paid experience. Experience just means experience in general. Okay, so do not discount anything that you're doing for free. Do not discount anything that you're volunteering for. If you've been a part of a club and you've had a, maybe you're a president or you're a vice president or something like that, right? So understand that. Do not wait for someone to pay you to have experience. Sometimes if you do that, you're waiting for too long, okay? So very quickly, the things that they're looking for, right? In terms of a heat map: photo, headline, summary or the about page, and the experience. And if those things are clean on your profile, people will continue to look. If they're not, they're probably going to turn away, okay? Other things too, in terms of being able to boost those things, right? I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth on those particular things that I mentioned, all right? So that we talked about the photo, right? I said, you don't need to pay someone for that photo. It just needs to be a professional one. And if you're wondering whether it's professional, ask someone. If it looks professional, they'll tell you. If it doesn't look professional, they'll tell you, okay? In terms of your headline, it probably should be about 10 words or less, all right? And you want it to be keyword searchable, okay? So ask yourself, in my headline, what do I want to be known for? What do I want to be the go-to person for? What do I want people to know about me, right? Because that's going right under your face, right, on your profile, okay? Like I said, you can use mine as an example. I want people to find me when they type in TEDx speaker. I want them to know that I've done that before. I also want them to know that I'm all about soft skills, okay? In terms of your summary, right? I would say you don't want it to be too long, all right? You probably want it to be a paragraph or two. More than that, people are probably not going to read it. The paragraph is probably going to just prove yourself. You want it to prove to people why they should be interested in you if you want a job. Or if you're an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, you want people to understand why they should support you, all right? And I talked about not only somewhat having a theme or a story within that area, but also making sure that you give them a call to action. And a call to action is simply, what do you want them to do next? They've read your story. Let's just assume that they like it. What do you want them to do next? For me, I want companies to know, if you have issues with soft skills at your company, especially within leadership, communication, or emotional intelligence, I want you to reach out to me because I have solutions, okay? And in terms of experience, one thing that people I would say, don't do very well on their LinkedIn profiles is a lot of times they'll just list their experience. They'll say, this is where I worked, right? Well, that doesn't tell me anything about you, right? Another thing that people do that's probably a mistake also is they write like a long paragraph or a long story about, sentences about what they're doing at their work, right? People don't have time to read that, okay? What the average person does is they scan it. They just look over it, right? When you have a book to read for a class, sometimes you read it word by word, but sometimes you scan it, right? When you're on a website, you don't have time to read every word. You're going to scan through it. So if you know that people are going to scan through your profile and they're only going to spend about 5 seconds or so on average, you need to have something that's very readable, right? So in my experience section, I tend to have bullet points. Now, on top of bullet points, not only are they easy to read, but also one thing about bullet points too is that you need to have data. You need to have numbers in there, right? Percentages, 95%. I managed a team of 30 people. I raised, profits by 50% over a year's period, right? Now, I don't want you to lie about those things, okay? But if you can add data into that, it sort of draws people's eyes to that. Okay, so start thinking about that in terms of how you're going to list things. Don't just put things on there that are very general or not equatable or not quantifiable. Okay. And the last thing is just kind of a bonus thought, right? Is you want to be able to potentially list skills. There's a section for that, right? You also can ask for recommendations. I do that. I have a decent amount of recommendations, probably more than the average person, but I ask for those types of things because essentially think of yourself as a brand. And when someone searches for you, you want to know what other people think about you. So you're going to have that in the recommendation section, right? And then I would say maybe the third bonus is if you can have any video links of yourself. On my profile, as you go into the summary, I believe, or actually above it, there's a couple of videos that I want to be featured on there for, okay? Because I think that nowadays, when we're doing a lot of our work remotely or even our studies remotely, you are not going to be seeing a lot of people in person. So therefore, the only way they're going to get an impression of who you really are in person is by seeing you talk on video. So I'd argue to say, as someone who does public speaking for a living, that learning to speak virtually on something like on Zoom, like as we're on right now, right? That is a different skill set. So 2 years ago, after I did my TED Talk and I started to speak, obviously a lot of things changed, and now I do everything virtually, okay? Speaking in person and speaking on a platform like Zoom is different. It's not completely different, but it's a little bit different, okay? And if you shoot a video of yourself speaking, presenting, maybe even just a really quick video about who you are, that type of thing is going to stand out. It's going to stand out not only to people who are looking at you, but also potential employers. So think about those types of things, okay? Now, if you do have any questions, feel free to type those in. We are going to spend a good chunk of time talking about things. So don't worry about if I'm not getting to your questions right now. But if you're going to forget them, feel free to type them into the chat. But I'm going to wrap things up pretty quickly, and we're going to go into a Q&A time, okay? Now that you sort of have a foundation for a profile, okay, let's talk about what you can do to stand out. Because it's one thing to know these things theoretically and agree with them, but my question is, what are you going to do about it, right? There's a lot of profiles on there. What are you going to do to stand out? So let's talk about some, all right? So know this. Statistically, the average user spends about 17 minutes on LinkedIn per month, not per day, per month, okay? So my suggestion to you is not only should you get on there and fix your profile, but you should be spending about 15 minutes at least per day on LinkedIn, okay? It could be on your phone, it could be through the computer, whatever, all right? So here are some of the things you could be doing for daily things, 15 minutes or so each day, okay? Understand that in terms of engagement, right? Just being on LinkedIn is not good enough, all right? Only 1% of the, I guess, 800 million or so users are actually engaged on there, all right? And this is what I mean by that. Now, if you're saying to yourself, well, I need to start posting things, you can do that, but if you don't have any connections or followers, nobody's going to see you, okay? So my suggestion in terms of engagement is that you need to start commenting on other people's posts. You need to find people that you agree with, that you like their ideas about, that you either are or aren't connected with, and to be able to comment on their posts, okay? That's how I get a lot of connections. That's how a lot of people find me and they send connection requests to me, is by me commenting on people who already have big followings or commenting on subjects that I feel like I have something to add to. So I tend to comment on a lot of leadership stuff, a lot of communication, soft skills, emotional intelligence type things, right? Figure out the types of things you want to be known for and start following those people and start commenting on their posts. Okay, that's one of the best ways to get engaged, right? In terms of job search, when you are applying to a job, and you can apply through LinkedIn Jobs, all right? One thing nice about LinkedIn Jobs is that there's always a job poster on there. So when you're applying to a job, you need to send a connection request to the person who is posting, okay? And if they accept it, you need to send a note to them about why they should take a look at yours. Just because you apply to a job doesn't mean that your LinkedIn profile or resume got to them, okay? The best thing that you can do to be proactive is when you apply to a job is you need to send a message to the person who's posting the job to get them to look at your application. Because sometimes based on keywords and they call it ATS, which is a fancy way of saying that sometimes what happens is your resume goes to a company and it gets lost in the mix because you don't have enough keywords in your resume that they're looking for, which means that when you're applying to a job, if you're not connecting with a person, sometimes you may say, well, I never got a call back or no one ever reached out to me. First of all, most recruiters don't get back to you unless they're interested in you. Second of all, sometimes your resume never makes it. So if you connect with a person, the chances of them at least looking at your resume is much better, all right? Once you sent that invitation to connect, and I urge you to do that on LinkedIn, okay? Don't be a passive person, be a proactive person. You wanna send a note as to why you wanted to connect with them in the first place, okay? Why are you sending me a connection request? I don't know who you are, you're a stranger, okay? Just write something like, I like your posts on LinkedIn. You're someone who I look up to, I respect, I want to get to know, maybe I even want to connect with you, right? Put that on there. Like most of the time, if you put a note on there, people are going to accept your request, okay? Now, if you want to advance that, if you want to actually better your chances of getting to know that person, right? Because it's one thing to say you have a connection request. It's another thing to be able to actually talk to that person, okay? Then I would urge you to follow up and ask them if they want to connect on video for 20 or 30 minutes through a Zoom or something like that, right? Now, you may be hesitant or shy to do that and you don't know what to say. Okay, I'll say this to you, treat it as an informational interview. Play the student, let them play the teacher and ask them questions, okay? Humble yourself and ask them questions in terms of being a professional, maybe it's a particular role or a job or a company that they work for that you want to know about. These days, there's no excuse to say that you can't do networking because of COVID or because you don't live by that person, okay? Networking is not location-based anymore. It's really done through the internet, okay? And lastly, I'll say this before we go into Q&A, okay? I believe that networking is 10% the meet, but 90% the follow-up. Let me repeat that. Connecting or networking is 10% meeting the person, 90% follow-up. The reason why I say that is that you can get good at connecting with people. You can add to your network, you can make it big. But what most people make the mistake of is they don't do a good job of keeping in touch with that person, right? Once you have a connection, you have to strengthen that connection. And the way to do that is to keep in touch with them, right? That's why I love to hop on Zoom afterwards and have a conversation with them, because that's how I feel like I can actually get to know them. You can go back and forth with someone a lot doing emails and you may know nothing about them, right? If I hop on a video chat with you for 20 minutes, I'm gonna know a lot about you if I ask the right questions, right? And does that sound like a lot of work? It could be a lot of work because at first you may not know what to ask, but I'll say this, okay? As someone who's a little bit more introverted myself, okay? I may not sound like it on here because I don't have the choice to be that on here because otherwise you guys would be bored, right? Know that as you do more of these, you're gonna get better at being able to know what to ask. When I meet with someone for the first time on Zoom or whatever like that, I don't have a lot of questions written out. At first I did because I didn't want to get stuck, right? But over time you learn to find something in common, you learn to connect with that, and then you're able to go from there, okay? So that's my end of the sort of teaching part. And I am gonna start with some of the questions that Clifford typed in already, but after I get finished with those, I would urge you guys to actually turn your videos on and ask the questions audibly because I would love to interact with you, okay? So I'll start with, oh, so Abraham, you actually messaged me privately, just asked about how do you get LinkedIn Premium for free? You can't, you really can't. So if you want to, I believe you can try it for free, but in all honesty, from what I hear from a lot of people, unless you're a recruiter, it's really not worth getting LinkedIn Pro Premium. So save the money, invest it in something else. From what I've heard, it's really not worth it. I don't have it, and I'm not losing because of it. Okay, so let's start with question number 1. It says, how can I write a good headline if I have many skills and positions to highlight? Okay, so let me give you this scenario. If at your house right now, okay, all of a sudden your toilet is overflowing, who are you going to call? You're going to call a plumber, right? Why are you going to call a plumber? Because a plumber is a specialist that you need for the job. There's a problem that you have, you need someone to solve it. You need them to solve it fast, right? You're not going to call a general contractor. You're not going to call a handyman who knows how to do a lot of different things. You're going to call a plumber, okay? So using that analogy, when you type in a headline, all right, you want to be known for 1 or 2 things at most. Okay, so you see on my headline, right, it says TEDx speaker, it says soft skills, right? Those are the 2 things I want people to search for me for. So ask yourself when you're doing a headline, what do you want people to search for you for? What do you want people to know you for? You can't be known for a lot of different things, because someone who's known for a lot of things doesn't really prove a lot of value to a potential employer. You know, if I say 10 different things, people are confused, right? So try to dial it down to 1 or 2 things. And you know what? If you're not a specialist or you don't have experience in that particular area, I would encourage you to put your aspirational headline. Put what you want to be known for. Okay? I'll tell you a really quick story. When I wanted to do a TEDx talk, I had no idea how to do it, right? So for a while, what I did is almost a year before I landed a TED Talk, I actually put in my headline, aspiring TEDx speaker, because that's what I wanted to be. Right now, fortunately, I eventually landed that. But during the time, people asked me a lot of questions. Oh, when's your TED Talk? I didn't get one yet. How's that process going? I got rejected a lot of times, right? It was a little bit risky, but at the same time too, that's what I wanted to be known for. So I put it out there. So you may say to yourself, well, I want to go into UX design, but I'm not a UX designer yet. Well, have you learned any free skills on YouTube? Put those types of things on there, right? Put you know, future UX designer or aspiring UX designer or whatever like that, right? You want to be known for really 1 or 2 things. Question number 2 says, how can I make meaningful connections? Sometimes I connect with people, but I have a hard time maintaining constant communication with them. Okay, so I'll say it like this. In terms of networking, like I said, there's 2 ways to grow your network. You can grow up by number, you can grow up by strength. Okay, so quantity, number, quality, strength. All right, so I see no problem with growing your network in terms of number. I think you can send many LinkedIn requests. Okay, you can connect with a lot of different people. Okay, now from that amount of people, okay, knowing that we only have 24 hours in a day and we have to sleep part of that time, we have to work the other part of it, right? We can't spend all day just connecting with people, hopping on Zoom all the time, talking to people. Okay, now when you connect with that person, it's important to be able to try to get to know them more, right? Like I said before, find that one thing in common, talk about that versus that. Some people you're gonna have chemistry with, some people you're not gonna have chemistry with, okay? As someone who connects with quite a few people, most of the people I do have chemistry with, some people I don't, okay? At worst, if I spent time with someone and it didn't work, I'm probably not gonna talk to that person again, okay? But for the other 80 to 90% of people that I do connect with, I can follow up every once in a while, right? With an email. Maybe I want to hop on Zoom with them. Maybe I want to send them a comment. Maybe I want to follow them somewhere, right? You think of it as a relationship, right? Think about it. Think about one of your family members or a best friend, right? How did you get to know them? You spent time, right? You shared stories. You made sure that you kept in contact with it, right? People overthink networking. It is relationship building. That's why I use the word connecting more than networking, because it sounds more human, right? We need to start thinking of it like that, right? And because we work in a primarily hybrid or remote work setting, understand that a lot of your networking is going to be done like this. You know, Zoom or video is kind of the new in-person in a way, right? It's not very difficult to get the connection, The challenging part is how do you maintain and strengthen the connection? And I can't tell you there's one way to do it. It's really practicing your soft skills and getting to know people and understanding how to be able to connect with them. And honestly, it's one of those things, as you start to do more of it, you're going to get better at it. Question number 3 says, how can I best send a connection note to professionals to get to join their network via connection? I think you just want to be honest about why you want to connect with them. Okay, if you're someone who, let's just say, wants to be like a software engineer, and you want to connect with a person who's a software engineer, just say to them, I saw your profile. I'm interested in being a software engineer. I would love to connect with you. Like, don't overthink it, right? A lot of times you're trying to send the perfect note to get someone to connect with you. It's not that difficult, you know? So don't analyze it, overanalyze it to the point where you don't do anything. Sometimes the worst thing you could do is overthink something. You can analyze something to death to the point where you actually end up not doing anything. And sometimes the worst action is inaction, not doing anything at all. So make sure that after you think about it a little bit, you send a connection request, just tell them why you wanted to connect with them and let it go from there. Okay. Question number 4 says, how can I be active on LinkedIn if I'm not a content creator? So I'm going to go back to the idea, you need to start commenting on people's posts. You need to start following people that you respect or want to know about, and you need to start commenting on their stuff. And honestly, other people, not just the author, will see those things and they'll like your comments, they'll comment on it. That's an invitation to send a connection request, right? That's a way. It's like this. If you are someone who doesn't have a lot of connections and you post something and no one likes it, no one comments on it, no one shares it, right? It's because it's as if you're in a room by yourself yelling and nobody hears you because nobody else is in that room, right? Now, if you go into a crowded room and someone is speaking and then you raise your hand, they call on you and then you comment on that, right? Even people who are not talking hear you talking, right? That's essentially what's happening when you're commenting on someone else's post, is that there's an author, you've decided to contribute to that, and other people see your comments. And if that comment is something that they like, they're going to either comment on it, like it, or whatever like that, right? And that's an invitation for you to connect with them because they already see something that they like, right? So that would be my number 1 thing if you want to get involved. After you establish your profile and stuff like that, you really need to start following people that you respect and then start commenting on their stuff. And you know what? The funny thing is that when you comment on their stuff and they see that consistently, they're probably going to start following you. And they're probably going to start to look for the types of things that you're posting, right? Let's see. One more is how to best illustrate 2 different diverse career professions on LinkedIn. Okay, so that's easy to do in the experience part. You know, you could list them as separate positions and people can go to them. I will say that for the most part, people are going to look at the latest one. And also too, they're going to look at what type of pattern are they seeing in your experience. You know, if you're a little bit more experienced and you have like, 10 years or 5 years or whatever like that in different jobs, they're going to see the patterns, right? But ultimately the people who are looking for you, okay, think of it like inbound marketing, okay? And let me explain that really quickly. When a company markets to you, okay, they're getting in your face and saying like, hey, I want you to buy this phone, okay? And you're like, I'm not even looking for a phone. But now you're thinking, oh, you know what? I could use a new phone, okay? That's outbound marketing, okay? Inbound marketing is when you're looking for something and you find it, okay? So if I'm typing in something like leadership book on Amazon, right? I'm doing the research, right? I'm looking for something, right? What you want to do is you want to position yourself on LinkedIn. When someone says, for me, this is what I'm doing specifically, right? I want to be known for soft skills on LinkedIn. So when someone types in soft skills, I want to come up high on the people part, on the post part, on the hashtag part, right? So understand that you want your experience to look like someone who is going to be, in this case, a mechanical engineer or software developer. Okay, there's nothing wrong with having both experiences on there, okay? But which one do you really want to be known for? Which one do you want to go towards, right? Because if someone sees your experience all over the place and they have no idea based on your headline or your summary in terms of where you want to go, they're going to be a little bit confused. And I'm just speaking from a recruiter standpoint. They want to know, do you have the skills in the particular area that we want to hire you for? Okay. So if someone's hiring for a software developer, they may like the fact that you have a background in mechanical engineering, but they really want to know what experience you have in software development, right? So do you have a portfolio? Are you showing me any of your past projects that you've done? Even if they're not paid, what type of things do you have out there, right? They want to see those types of things. Give them proof. Everybody, if you do not have work experience, okay, don't let that be an obstacle for you. Everybody at one point didn't have a job or job experience, right? What you need to do is you need to prove to potential employers on LinkedIn that even though you may lack the job experience, the paid experience, right, that you, okay, are worth taking a shot at. You are worth taking a risk on, right? It's the same thing that we have to do in interviews. But understand, before you get an interview, you have to prove yourself on LinkedIn to get an interview, right? So think of it like that, right? If the end game is to get a job, right? And before getting a job, you have to get interviewed. Before you get interviewed, you have to be considered as a candidate, right? LinkedIn is a qualifier. It's a qualifier to be considered for that job, right? So as you look at other people's LinkedIn profiles that you like, you don't necessarily need to copy them, but get ideas, right? Like I said, the formatting is done, okay? But get ideas. Like I said, in the experience, put bullet points, put some data in there, right? A call to action in your about section, right? Make sure you have a professional picture. Make sure that your headline is clear about what it is you want to do, okay? I think I got to all the questions that were typed in the chat. So at this point, if you have any other questions, either you want to type them in, or like I said before, if you want to get brave and get off, put on your video and ask a question. I see Abraham's hand up, so I'm going to call on you. Abraham, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question.
Thank you very much. Actually, I just started using LinkedIn, and when I send requests to people, it will take a while before people answer, and I'll check my followers or my connection, and yet it remains the same. So in this case, what would be the good phrase for me to start as a conversation?
So I think if you're sending requests and they're not getting accepted, I think number one, they don't know you, okay? And I wouldn't be overly concerned about that, but you have to, it's kind of like if you sent an email to somebody and they didn't know who it was and they assume that it was spam or junk mail, you have to put something in a subject line. You have to be able to write something really quickly to be able to get them to want to open that up, right? Want to connect with you. So I think that maybe if you did your research ahead of time and looked at their profile, you looked at their experience, you looked at something they have, and you lead with that. You know, I see that you're working at Google. My dream job is to work at Google. I would love to connect with you. Something simple like that. So I think that sometimes when people don't accept your request, it's because they don't know who you are. And like I said before, you're always going to reach out to people that you probably don't know, because if you did know them, you'd already be connected with them, right? But what you have to do is you have to establish a reason why they would accept you, right? Think of it backwards. If someone sent you a request and you didn't know who they were, would you accept their request? You know, and if the answer is no, then what do they need to do to put on the note for you to accept their request? And whatever answer you have, that's the answer for you to send when you send an invitation request. Does that make sense?
Sure, totally. Thank you very much for your explanation.
Sure, you're welcome. Brains, you have your hand up.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Pam. And I'm not sure if, yeah. So my question was about about LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
So the question is, I'm getting feedback from recruiters, but I'm not getting back like the calls that I want. So yes, I'm getting feedback, but I'm getting feedback from not the source that I want. So I was wondering, like, is it like the way I've structured my profile, or is there a way like I should do something, since it's not that I'm not getting feedback from the recruiters, it's just I'm not getting the feedback that I want. So
now, do you mean that you're not getting feedback from the types of positions that you want? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'll say this, okay? From the people that you are getting feedback from, figure out what the patterns are within that feedback. So let's just say you're applying to, like, what type of job are you looking for?
Yeah. So currently, I'm looking for like remote positions, maybe in Europe and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so remote, what type of remote positions?
Android developer positions. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And what type of feedback are you getting?
So mostly it's about people just reaching out and saying, will you build an app for me? Like within 1 week, will you like do this certain thing like within a short span of time? So yeah, or people just reaching out, then ghosting me. So
Like
yeah,
kind of like maybe like contract work, that type of
yeah,
thing?
contract work. Yeah, exactly. Not like
Okay.
full-time.
Okay, no, okay.
Yeah.
So there's something in your profile that people who are contacting you for contract work or freelance work are interested in. So that's a good thing, okay? That means that they see something valuable in your profile. Now, I'm gonna use an analogy between a resume and LinkedIn. It's basically the same thing, just one's on paper and one's digital, okay? When people apply to a job and you get an interview, right? And you're kind of surprised, right? Because maybe you applied for a job and you feel like maybe you don't qualify that, right, for that. It's because the recruiter or the hiring manager sees something in your resume or LinkedIn profile that makes them believe that you would be a good fit for that particular position. So the people who are giving you feedback think that you would do a good job doing whatever contract work or freelance work they're going to do, right? What you need to do is figure out what type of changes do I need to make for people who I want to reach out to me to get a hold of me. So if you're looking for like remote work, you're looking for remote, particular work, search for that position on LinkedIn and find someone who ranks really high. Look at what they have in their experience. Like I said before, don't lie about it, but put the types of things that you have skill-wise that they have too, and slowly start to tweak and make your profile look like a candidate who wants to get hired for that particular position. So the feedback is good. The feedback means that people are looking at you as someone they want to hire, right? Maybe not full-time, maybe contract work or freelance work, right? But if you want to be searched for in that particular category, I do it myself. Okay, I look at other speakers. I look at other people who do who are consultants, right? I look at what they have in there, and that's what I try to tweak my profile for. So you're not far off. It's just a matter of making sure that you're making the changes that you need in order for people to see you the way you want them to see you. Because right now they're seeing you maybe a little bit of a different way.
Yeah, I think that illuminates what you wanted to know. Yeah, I wanted to know. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So, like
good.
about like networking on LinkedIn, it seems like a long time game. So is it just but like being consistent, or is it like being like it looks like you just reach out to someone, schedule a video call, then you don't have to say that you want a job directly, just wait for them to tell you that there's a position. So like, is there like a quick way to like not beat around the bush and just like, yeah, I don't know if you understand me. Yeah.
So I would say this, networking is never quick. So let's just say, let me give a dating analogy, okay?
Yeah.
If you, as a guy, are interested in a girl, right?
Yeah.
You have to ease into it, okay? So think of the girl like a job, okay? You can't ask for a job on the first date. You just can't do that. It's not going to go over well, okay? So understand that the first time you do Zoom with them, it's really about finding that at least one thing and building on that in terms of connection. I tell people right off the bat when I connect with them, the first thing I say when we get on and we say, oh, thank you for spending some time with me, connecting with me, wanting to get on here. I just want you to know right off the bat, I do not have an agenda. And that disarms people. That lets them know I'm not trying to sell them anything, okay? So it's purely trying to see if we have any chemistry, okay? Now, if we have chemistry at a certain point, I may think of ways I can help them. They may think of ways they can help me, right? We can have that conversation later on down the road. But I understand that networking is like dating in the sense where you can't go for it right away. And if you do try to go for it right away, think of it like this. If someone messaged you on LinkedIn and they said, hey, I want to sell you something, you're like, who are you? I don't even know you, right? So you have to ease into it. You can't go too fast, you know?
Yeah.
And here's the thing, if that feels like it's gonna take too long, if you're doing that with not just one person, but like say 10 people or 20 people or 30 people, right? Obviously not on the same day, but just over a period of time, right? You're going to lose track with how many people that you connected with. Now you need to have a system, you know, like a CRM, HubSpot, Salesforce, Google Sheets is good if you don't want to have a thing. Basically, it's a fancy way of saying, what system are you going to organize your network with? How are you going to keep track of the people that you connected with?
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and don't count on, oh, I have a good memory. Don't do that. It's not going to work. You know, I use HubSpot. You could check that out. It's free. Salesforce is a paid one. That's what a lot of companies use. But you literally can go on your Google Drive, open up Google Sheets, and you can type in someone's name. You can type in notes, when you contacted them, whatever like that. But you want to keep a record so that if you connect with that person later on, you don't say something like, wait, so what do you do again? And the person's like, wait, we talked about this already. You want to be able to pick up the conversation from where you left off last time, right? And if you have a system like a HubSpot to work with you, you take the guesswork out. You know exactly what you talked about. You can track emails. You can type in notes. That's what I do a lot. So when I speak with someone, 5 minutes before I get on the call, I get their contact information on like HubSpot. I open it up while we're talking, and I look at my notes, and then I just pick up where we left off last time.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thank you.
So think of it like this, okay? If the goal is to get a job, right? The habit that you need to get the job has to be your system of how you organize your contacts. So I would urge you today, you say to yourself, oh, I'm gonna get on LinkedIn, I'm gonna have all these, you know, I'm gonna get all these requests and whatever like that, right? That's all good. That's all good, okay? But what you really need to figure out and you really need to work on is you need to work on what is the system that's going to help you organize all those contacts. Because if you don't have a system, okay, then all you're doing is just shooting arrows all over the place. You're not doing anything. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's see.
I have a few questions.
Yeah, sure.
So at what point will it be bugging someone? You've texted them and they have not really responded, and you text again. Is it okay to text a lot?
Text, is that what you said?
No text to connect, like in LinkedIn.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it okay? Is that what you said?
Yeah, is it okay to text a lot? Like, they
Like
haven't responded in the first instance.
Like messages?
Yeah. No, in LinkedIn, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think once you connect with the person, you know, and you've established, you know, that you're going to connect, I think some people will keep the conversation going. Some people won't. You know, it's that's why I say, like, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, in the sense where, you know, you have so much expectation or so many hopes in one particular person. You want to be able to use that process with a lot of different people, because let's just say you have 5 new connections, right? And you send a message to all of them, right? The chances of you really having a long conversation with all 5 of them is very low, right? But if you can start a conversation with like 2 or 3 of them, that's good. That's really good, right? It's just like back when people were doing networking events, right? And the old thing used to be like, you would hand out like business cards. People don't do that really anymore. But a lot of people say, look at, I have 50 business cards, right? That's great. You have 50 business cards. Do you remember any of the professions of what these people did? Do you remember any conversation you have with these 50 people? No. So what good did that do you, right? Rather, I would say, you know what? Rather than trying to collect as many business cards as you can, why don't you just have like 5 conversations during that time, right? And then make sure that you get their contact information and follow up with them, and then see how many people from there you actually you build a relationship with, right? So in LinkedIn terms, you send a lot of connection requests, right, with a note, right? And then you send a follow-up message afterwards of why you wanted to connect with them. And then from there, if they're open to having like a Zoom chat or whatever like that, great. And then after that, you keep in touch with them. And some people will, like someone mentioned before, some people will ghost you after that, right? That's their thing. You can't do anything about that, right? So I would say just the only thing I would say be careful with is that don't ask for things like really quickly right when you meet them. You know, like, oh, can I have a job? Oh, can you do this for me? Can you mentor me? Like that's too much. You know, like ease into it. Like, you know, like a regular friendship. If you met someone before at a store and you had a conversation with them, you know, like you would ease into it. You wouldn't ask them for something right away. So
Okay, so what's like the bare minimum of networking in LinkedIn?
bare minimum interaction, is that what I said?
Yeah.
Are you talking about how many people, or are you talking about like how much you communicate with one person?
How much you communicate with the person, like to keep in touch.
Oh, keep in touch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's hard to say if there's not a hard rule for that. I think it's because everybody is different. That makes sense? So if I tell you do this and it doesn't work, you're gonna say, hey, Scott told me to do this, it didn't work, right? It's because everybody is human, everybody's different, okay? As a general statement, I would say this is what I do for follow-up, okay? If, let's just say I email somebody, okay, because I have their information afterwards, right? I email them, right? If I don't hear back from them in like 2-3 days, I'll email them again and just say, oh, you know what? I just wanted to let you know I emailed you. I just wanted to make sure it got to you. I'm gonna assume that they're busy. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, right? Now, maybe I'll wait, say like a week after that if they don't get back to me, and I'll email one more time and I say, hey, you know, I just wanted to let you know that I reached out. I haven't heard back from you yet. I'd love for you to, you know, get back to me when you have the chance, right? If they never get back to you after that third attempt, I would just drop it. Because at that point, you're going to do more damage. They're going to think that you're annoying. They're going to think that you're, you know, desperate. They're going to think a lot of different things, right? So for the most part, when you contact someone the first time, maybe there's a 50% chance they're going to get back. If you follow up a second time, there's a better chance, okay? Because a lot of times what happens is people they just lose track, right? Like we forget to, sometimes someone texts us, right? And maybe we just forget to get back, right? So don't take it personal if someone doesn't get back to you right away, because we make mistakes, things happen, right? So I would say just, you wanna be persistent in your follow-up, but you don't want to be annoying. There's a fine line, right? So let the person know that you're really interested in getting to know them, right? But don't be a nuisance. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And there's not a general rule for that. It's just you have to get a feel for it over time. Any other questions you guys had? Any other things you want to know, whether it's something I covered or something I didn't cover?
So I still have a question.
Sure.
So since you're a TEDx speaker,
yeah,
like I wanted to know, like, how long did it take you, like, to ease in like speaking and in front of people, or like even when you're speaking right now, like you are quite eased out and like there's no there's no that tension like of speaking in front of, even in a Zoom call. So like I wanted to know, like, how long did it take and what strategies did you use to like develop that skill? Yeah,
sure, great question. So if you would have asked me 10 years ago if I would ever want to do speaking, I would say no. Speaking is actually something that I was actually very fearful of almost my whole life, even early on in my career. So I'll tell you what the light bulb moment was for me. Now, this could be very different for everybody, okay? But the light bulb moment for me was many years ago, where maybe let's meet that person. Was essentially one day I realized, you know, the reason why I'm not good at speaking is because I tell myself I'm not good at speaking. So the self-talk that was going into my head was speaking is not my thing. So I knew that I needed to change that self-talk. So I changed that self-talk to, I want to become a great speaker, right? Now, did that change things overnight? No, it did not change things overnight. But mindset comes before skill set, okay? Let me say that again. Mindset comes before skill set, okay? You can learn the skills of public speaking, but if you are not confident in doing it, you're not going to be good at it, okay? So once I set my mind to the fact that I wanted to get better at it, I started to watch TED Talks. I started to record myself. I started to watch my videos. I know that sounds like, you know, a little bit crazy, but that's what you got to do to get better. You know, I started to volunteer speaking, right? It was a process. It probably took about 5 or 6 years, right? And then when I applied to do a TED Talk, it wasn't for any career or job opportunities. It was because I wanted to prove to myself I could do it. Because when I thought of a speaker, I thought of someone who did a TED Talk, right? So I set the goal for myself to do one. It took me almost a year to land the talk. And then I did the talk about 2 or 3 months after that. So in terms of the confidence piece, right? And then the weird thing about that is I did my TED Talk in February of 2020, and then COVID happened in March, right? So what I thought was going to be a speaking tour in terms of doing it in person became Zoom, right? Now I mentioned before that speaking on Zoom or video is different than speaking in person. Okay, it's a different skill set. I think everybody in March of 2020 had to adjust, right? The only advice I could give you for speaking on virtual versus in person is that no matter how shy you are, or no matter how loud you are, when you're speaking on Zoom as a presenter or someone who's commenting about that, you need to be very energetic. Don't ever talk about things that you're not into, because I would rather listen to someone who is speaking on Zoom that is very passionate about what they do, even if I care nothing about that subject. But if I listen to someone who's going to speak on something like, say, leadership, because that's really something I'm into, right? If they talk very monotone, if they talk very like low energy, I'm bored, right? So my advice to you would be volunteer to speak. You're probably not going to be very good at it right away, but force yourself to face your fears, okay? Then study other people who do it that you feel like are pretty good at it, right? And then eventually you're going to develop your own style, right? My style of speaking can be broken down into 3 words. It's brief, it's conversational, it's practical. And if someone says to me, Scott, I don't like that style, I say, sorry, that's me. I'm not going to try to be someone that I'm not, right? So I've in my mind, I've found my voice. That's what works for me. So if someone says to me like, oh, well, you know, we want you to talk a little bit more theoretical. We want you to inspire us and this and that sort of thing, right? Like, I could do a little bit of that. But if you want me to get to the point and tell you what to do next, I could do that. That makes sense? So I'm very, maybe what you're seeing is I'm very comfortable with my style. And I don't try to be someone that I'm not. And so you have to figure out what your style is and stick to that. Does that help?
Yeah, I think that lights a bulb in my head. Yeah,
Good.
That's helpful. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
And like also like you have YouTube videos, like I'm sure like those moments like you cringe when you hear yourself back. So like how did you overcome those cringe moments of is that like how I sound or
yeah, I mean, I think it's so, for example, I do these types of events like multiple times a month, and a lot of times they send me the recording and I watch it. I don't really want to watch it, but I watch it because you are going to be the most critical of you than anybody else. Right? Someone will watch the video and they say, "Oh, that was great," and you go, "I said too much. I said like too much. I said you too much. I said you're gonna break it down, right?" But that's the best feedback you can get, because you're going to make sure you make those changes. So I literally have notes on my computer that will say, stop saying stop saying stop saying this, right? So I get better at it, right? And over time, honestly, as you watch your videos, you become less self-conscious. You care less because you realize, that's what I look like. Other people are not as concerned about it as me. Get over yourself. That's essentially what happens at a certain point. Are you ever going to love watching yourself on video? I'm not. Some people may. I'm not going to ever love it, right? But I look at it with a critical eye, knowing that I can get better. So that's all I'm looking for.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So Mark Betere.
My apologies. I was appreciating. Yeah, I have no question. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So if there's anyone who has a question, you can unmute your mic or type in the chat box. So what's the best resources for, is there like resources for practicing? So networking, I know it's getting to connect with more people, but like physical networking. Is there any resource one can use?
Like suggestions, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
For talking in person or talking virtual?
But just generally improving your networking.
Oh, okay,
skills.
okay. Like improving your communication skills. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay. So think of it like this, okay? If you were training to be a weightlifter, right? And you would go to the gym and you would lift weights, right? You would start light and then you would build up and you get heavier, right? And maybe after a year or so, you would be able to lift a lot more weight than you were able to lift a year before that, right? Because your muscles have developed, okay? The reason why I use that analogy is that communication is like a muscle. You need to develop it. And the only way to develop it is to practice it, right? To get your repetitions in. So if someone says to me, I want to become a better speaker, and they say, how do I do that? I said, you need to start speaking. You need to start volunteering to speak. There's no, you can study all you want, you can watch all the YouTube videos you want, you can take classes, you can research different people, you can emulate whatever you want to, but you're not going to get any better. You're only going to get better if you actually do it, right? So let's just say in your example, you want to get better at like having a conversation with a stranger, I guess, right? Okay. At first, feel free to put notes in the background on your computer of some questions that you want to ask, right? Ask open-ended questions. That's different than a closed question. A closed question is when you ask a question and the answer is yes or no. Don't ask those type of questions because you're going to get one answer, a one-word answer, and it's going to kill the conversation, right? You want to ask questions that get the conversation to continue, right? So if I say to you, Pamela, tell me about some of your hobbies, right? You're going to think about it and you're going to tell me about it, right? And you say, well, one of my hobbies is I like to read books, right? I say, oh, what type of books do you like to read? And you tell me the type of book you like to read, right? Oh, can you tell me some of your favorite books? Can you tell me some of your favorite authors, right? I mean, it keeps on going, right? I actually believe that if you can get better at the skill of asking questions, you actually do not have to talk that much. You can actually just keep on asking follow-up questions and they just kind of keep going. And afterwards, you know what they're going to say to you? Wow, Pamela, that was great talking to you. And you're like, I didn't even talk that much. But they feel like because you're asking questions and you're listening, they feel like you're a good conversationalist. That makes sense? Yeah. So I would say, actually, if you want to build better connections, I would say, start figuring out what type of questions to ask. Because if you can ask the right questions, like I do a series with General Assembly where I host like an event twice a month, and I'm usually the person who's interviewing and they're the person who's speaking. I tell them my job as an interviewer is to set you up for success. And I do that by asking you questions that are going to get you to talk about things that you're passionate about. And the feedback that I get from the audience all the time is like, wow, you're really good at what you do, right? And I think to myself, well, I appreciate that, but really all I'm doing is I'm just setting them up by asking them the right questions. So as you get, communication is not just being a good talker. Communication is also about being a good listener and asking good questions.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
It does.
Good, good. I hear, I think Abraham's hand is up. Do you want to ask a question?
Yes, it's not really a question, but I'd rather ask if there will be any suggestions on books or ebooks that we would like to read to give us more insight about how to be confident and present ourselves to the public.
Books, like resources?
Yes, resources.
Okay. So I would say for the most part, I don't do as much reading as I used to, so I couldn't really give you any current books. I would say in terms of confidence, that's a very personal thing. I think that, think of it like this, okay? I'm gonna use a visual, all right? So think of a cartoon of a snowball on top of a mountain, right? And it's rolling down and it's chasing somebody, okay? As a snowball rolls down the mountain, it gets bigger and bigger, okay? As you achieve something, you set a goal and you achieve it, right? And I encourage you to start small. So let's just say you're talking about becoming a better speaker, right? Okay, well, you know what I'm gonna do? Next time I'm in a meeting for school, I'm gonna raise my hand and I'm gonna volunteer and ask a question. That's a baby step, right? You ask a question. You're nervous, but you ask a question, right? Then you come back to yourself and say, I did it. What am I gonna do next time? Next time, I'm gonna volunteer to lead a section. Ooh, I'm a little bit nervous doing that, but I'm gonna try it, right? You do that, right? This is what happens. That snowball, which is achievement, accomplishing your goal, it gets bigger, right? And as it gets bigger, it builds momentum, right? Achievement plus momentum equals confidence. That's my equation for it, okay? So when you wanna build your confidence, you need to start small and you need to build on it and you need to keep on building on it, okay? And then eventually you get more and more confident, right? So for me, as my example, right, I gave, right? When I decided I wanted to start doing public speaking, what did I do? I volunteered to do it, okay? I volunteered, actually, the first place I volunteered was my dad is a pastor at a church and I volunteered to speak at his church, right? Once a month to give him a break, right? I did that for many years. I started to like it. I started to get better at it. I started to create my own style doing it, right? And then that made me say, you know what? I like this so much. I actually want to do this for a living, right? So I decided to apply for a TED Talk. I had no idea how to do it, right? But I applied and I got rejected a lot of times. I applied to about 25 different TED Talks and I got accepted for one, right? But I was determined to get accepted for it, right? I did it. It was nerve-wracking, right? But you know what? Doing that TED Talk was more about proving to myself I could do it. And once I did that, it built my confidence a lot, right? So that snowball got a lot bigger and it continues to get bigger. That makes sense?
Sure, it makes sense. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I have one thing in the chat. It just asked if I could repeat the point. Oh, style. Brief, conversational, and practical. That's just for me. I'm not saying that should be for you. I'm just saying that when people leave, you know, one of my sessions or workshops or whatever like that, you know, I want them to feel like he got to the point, he talked to me like a person, and he gave me things I could do. That's what I want people to walk away with.
I would be happy if able to help me land a job from LinkedIn, because I have tried to land a job from LinkedIn and it's impossible.
Yeah, okay, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I can't spend too much time on this. I don't think anyone can quote unquote get you a job on LinkedIn. I think that what you should be doing is you should be applying through LinkedIn, you should apply through company websites. You should have your LinkedIn profile, you know, looking good. You should be networking. I mean, there's not one thing you should be doing. You should be doing a lot of different things. And I will say this, that the most proactive thing, although it may be one of the slowest ways, is you need to start building your network. Because most people get hired by jobs because they know somebody. You don't know anybody, no one's gonna vouch for you. You may not be the best candidate for the job, but if someone vouches for you, now all of a sudden you go a little bit higher up on that candidate list. So we could connect on LinkedIn. I can give you some tips and things like that. I don't think anyone out there could give you a job on LinkedIn. I think it's a matter of getting your LinkedIn profile better, building your connection base, and then applying to specific jobs on company sites and following up with people who actually work at the company.
Okay, so Prince has his Prince, you can.
Yeah, so it's not a question, it's just like a complimentary statement. So like I like that part you say that it's all about just starting, and there's no book that will teach you like how to articulate yourself better, how to have confidence. Even if you find a book that was written maybe someone in 1,000 years ago, it won't help. So yeah, also that part of recording yourself, I guess I'll be doing that. Since I also like create tutorials on YouTube, I usually don't like rewatch myself, maybe if I'm just editing. So I just edit it, publish it, and that's all. I feel like it's cringy when watching myself. But I guess if I have to improve, I just need to do that. And it's the hardest part of it, but in the end, all it will pay off. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think of it like this, for those of you who like watch a lot of sports, I like to use the comparison to sports a lot. The tape doesn't lie. Like if you video yourself doing anything, right? Like I'm really into golf, like that's like probably one of my biggest hobbies, right? One thing I started to do is I started to videotape my swing because I need to see what I'm doing wrong. Otherwise, in my mind, I'm like, well, the ball goes well, I must be doing something good. The ball doesn't go well, I must be doing something wrong. But I don't know what I'm doing wrong, right? So when you videotape yourself, when you're speaking, you can see the things that you're doing wrong, right? Are you making eye contact? Are you using body language? Is your energy level high? Are you saying too many filler words? Like all these things are going to come out. You get exposed, essentially, right? And other people are not going to see those things because most people, what they're seeing is, do I like the speaker? Do I like what he's saying? Is it something that can help me, right? When we're watching our video, we're saying, I don't like this, I don't like that, I said this too much. We're very critical, right? But that's how you get better. And so really try to look at it very objectively, not subjectively. Look at it as a tool for getting better, right? Like the reason why I can't really suggest any books that would particularly help you is not, like I said, number one, I don't have time to read a lot of books. But the other thing is that I actually think that head knowledge without practice doesn't get you better. Most things in life, if you want to get better at it, the best teacher is experience. The best teacher is trial and error, right? If I want to be an entrepreneur, how do I become a better entrepreneur? Start my own business. I need to lose some money. I need to like pitch to investors. I need to get rejected. I need to sell something and someone to give me some feedback, right? My joke is that I know you guys, I know I'm older than most of you guys, if not all of you, but my joke with entrepreneurship is it's like parenting. You can read all the books you want. You can watch all the videos you want. But the hardest part about it is actually you never understand it until you actually do it. So the most unprepared you're going to be as a parent and as an entrepreneur is when you start, because the learning curve is like this, and you feel like you don't know enough, Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people say, well, that's not really good advice, and I would say to them, well, go ahead and go read your books, go watch your YouTube videos, but a year from now, have you done anything? And if you haven't done anything, then my advice to you is like, well, how do you know you got any better? Right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So I always encourage people, most of you guys are students, right? In college or around there. And I would say this, I'm going to give you some unconventional advice. For some of you, college is not the right fit. The reason why I say that is because ask yourself, when I graduate college, is it going to help me get the job that I want? And if the answer is no, I would really seriously think about whether you should be going to college or not. Because do you want to be in debt after you get out of college and then look for a job and get a job not in your major, and then spend your first 5 years of your career paying off the money for a job that you don't even want to have? That makes sense? Okay. Yeah. So I have kids. Okay. My kids are ages 9 and 6. Okay. When they get to that age, they need to prove to me and my wife why we should give them the money to go to college. And if they can't, we're not going to give them the money. Because from someone who, I have a master's degree and a bachelor's degree, my bachelor's degree was a complete waste of money and waste of time too. My master's degree was good because it was in leadership, because I liked leadership. But I learned more from my cohort, the students and the professors than I did any of the content. I'm still friends with some of them, right? So if you want to be an entrepreneur, is college going to help you? That's probably not. Okay. If you want to be a teacher, a lawyer, or a doctor, you have to go to school. You don't have a choice, right? But I would say up to 80% of the careers that are out there, especially in technology, because I've heard some of you say like mechanical, like engineering, software developer, right? I'd argue to say out of high school, if that's what you want to do, you should start taking classes at a trade school and then get a job right away. Like to get a job at like 19, you'll be getting paid a lot of money. And you know what what the best learning is on the job. So you're actually learning the skills while someone's paying you to learn the skills, right? And a lot of these courses nowadays that teach technology are like 3-month courses. I would rather learn something in 3 months than 4 years, right? And I would rather pay $10,000 than $200,000 for a degree, right? So I'm not saying that that college is bad. Okay, I'm not saying that. Okay, but I'm saying the question you need to ask yourself is, based on what you want to do, and that's what you need to figure out first. What do I want to do? Is college going to help me get there faster? And if the answer is no, save your money. The answer is yes, then do it. But don't do college because you don't want people to think you're dumb, or that's because what everybody else does. That's not a good reason to do that. When I was graduated high school, I thought that's what I needed to do, so I did it. Did college help me? It didn't help me, right? I wish someone would have said that to me earlier. So I'm telling you guys right now, okay, don't go drop out right now and say Scott told you to do that, okay? But evaluate. Don't do it backwards. Don't go to college and think that it's gonna teach you what you need to learn. I mean, don't go to college thinking that it's gonna teach you what you're going to do in your career. You need to figure that out. No college course is gonna help you figure that out, okay? The better question of which college am I gonna go to and what degree am I gonna graduate with, the better question is what do I wanna do? Because nowadays you can learn anything you want to for free on YouTube, anything you want to, right? You can fix things, you can learn programs, there's, free certifications for things, right? So if anything, okay, that we've learned today, it's you need to network, not as a goal, but it needs to become part of your lifestyle, okay? It's a necessity, right? And then the second thing is that you need to figure out what it is that you want to do for your career, and it could change. So don't worry about that if it changes. That's what pivoting is called. Figure out what you want to do, and then just work backwards. And what do I need to do to get to that point, right? And if college is one of those steps, do it. But if it's not, don't do it because that's what everybody else is doing. Don't follow the crowd. That's one of my things, and that's not that easy for everybody. But hey, I got a degree. Careers are very unconventional. I got a degree in psychology, and I switched my major my last semester. I thought I was going to be an elementary school teacher. I went to school for teaching. I worked at a school as a teacher's assistant for a year and a half. I realized I didn't want to do that anymore, so I switched my major my last semester. Graduated with a psychology degree. Okay, at the time I was volunteering at a church. I took the job as a youth director, so I was basically in charge of like middle school and high school students, right? Then I went back to school, got a master's in organizational leadership, and then I realized I wanted to do coaching, okay? And then, so what I did, and this is not very smart, but I did it, is I quit my job, I started my own practice, and it was hard for a long time because I thought I could just do it, right? But if I could do it all over again, I would have not gone to college. I would have studied under a coach while I was in high school or right in college. And then I would have started a business right there. I would have saved myself a lot of money and a lot of time. And I would have had 10 more years of experience to this point. I probably would have been speaking about 10 years earlier in my life,
Yeah.
So there is no conventional career path except for being a doctor, being a teacher, and being a lawyer. Everything else is like this. Everything else is like that. So if someone says to you, Brains, this is the way you need to do it. I don't know. I don't know about that. Because whenever I talk to people and they tell me what their career journey was up to this point, it's always different.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. I think that's a new bulb lit in my mind. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I see Mark's hand up. You want to ask a question, Mark?
You're on mute, Mark.
Oh, Mark.
I think you're on. I think you're on mute, Mark.
Audible.
Yeah, Yes, you're.
I can see your lips moving, but nothing's coming out.
You hear me?
Oh, wait, yes. No, we can hear you.
Oh, I wanted to inquire. You've told us about the college degree. So, what about the case to do with the parents? Because telling my dad, okay, I've seen that possibly I want to do software engineering and I know the sources, I can get it for free on the internet. What about now? How should I deliver it to them and tell them, okay, I now don't want to pay for this degree, but instead you can save that cash and I can do my learning online and then get my job. Yeah.
So I'm not your parents, so I don't know how they're going to respond. But I would say this, that times have changed. And if you want to be, say, a software engineer, right, the best way to learn the skills is through a school that is very specific with those skills, right? Like a General Assembly or, there's different schools that are out there, right? That are specifically for that, right? And they tend to be shorter in length. And a lot of times, what you could do is you could show your parents that a lot of times with those types of programs, they actually guarantee you a job afterwards. So let's just say you take a program for 6 months, right? And it costs like say $20,000, right? Whereas if you went to school for 4 years at a private university, it would cost you maybe, $200,000, right? After you graduate college with a degree and you go and interview, you know what the interviewer is going to say? I don't care you have a college degree. That's not going to get you a job, right?
Absolutely.
If you graduate with a certification in a particular skill set for software engineering, right? Not only do you have that skill set that the employer is looking for, you also have a portfolio that's ready to show them that you know the skills, right? And a lot of times what happens is they actually bring recruiters from companies who are looking to hire graduates. They're actually going to give you a job afterwards. And the job you're going to get is going to pay for your schooling like that, like probably within a couple of months, because those tech jobs are high paying, right? Whereas if you went to college, let's just say you're $200,000 in debt, right? You get a job doing something that you don't want to do, that's paying you minimum wage, right? It's going to take you many years to pay back. And then now you're 25 years old, right? And then you're starting all over from where you would be if you're 18 years old, right? So like I said before, I'm not your parents. I don't know how they're going to respond, but understand you have to give them a case, right? If I was on, you guys know the show Shark Tank, right? Where they pitch investors, right? Think of it like this: your parents are the investors, right? And you're the entrepreneur, right? You need to pitch to them why they should consider your option more than the option that they think is better. And if you can't do that, you haven't done a good job pitching your idea. That makes sense?
Thank you. A ton of sense, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess Tim's playing the past 20 minutes, but Caleb has a question.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm a student pursuing mechanical engineering, but it isn't really my passion. I'm always doing software development. I learn on my own. I've learned a lot and taken many courses and really like it, but I'm still doing my course. I'm assuming it's mechanical engineering. Should I switch majors or just finish my course and look for jobs related to my passion? I've done many projects to show any employer. Okay, Caleb, so I don't know where you are in your journey at this point. I'm not sure if you're close to graduating or if you're right in the beginning. That makes somewhat of a difference, but I would say overall, you probably should start focusing on software development, because if you're not passionate about what you're doing, you're just going through the motions. Too many people work at jobs that they hate, and they're just looking for a way to quit. So don't let yourself get into that situation. I would say figure out how you can get into software development as soon as you can. Whether that be switching majors or whether that be getting a job. If you already have work to show people, quite honestly, you probably could get hired right now. Because in all honesty, on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, you know the thing they care about the least? Your education. They care about your skills, they care about your experience. They don't care about your education. Because just because I have a degree from UCLA and I have a degree from maybe a less prestigious school, it doesn't mean anything, just a piece of paper. It's an expensive piece of paper, but it's just a piece of paper. So I would encourage you to figure out how you can get on a software development path as soon as possible, because you don't have time or money to waste. So don't do that. That'd be my advice. Pamela, should we wrap up?
Yeah. So, do you have anything you feel that you've left out that you want to add as we wrap up?
Yeah. So really quickly, I'll wrap up in a couple of minutes. I'm going to type in something in the chat. That's an assessment I believe everybody should take. If you're in high school or older, you should take that test. Okay, it's the best $20 to $25 you can invest in yourself. We talk about all these personal development classes. What you need to know? You need to be able to answer the question, why should I hire you? And you know how you answer that question? You need to answer that question with one or two things that are your strengths and past examples of when you've used those strengths before. It doesn't have to be in a job. It just has to be when you've used them before. Okay. A lot of people will say to me, well, I don't know what my strengths are. Well, here's the resource for it right there. Okay. What that resource is going to give you is it's going to tell you what are the 5 things that I'm best at in terms of strengths. Okay. When you read the definitions of those things, you're going to say, I agree with that, because you're the one who took the test. Unless you lie about it, you're going to get the answers that agree with who you are, right? The problem is that a lot of people don't know how to articulate what your strengths are. The reason why that's so important is when someone hires you, it's not necessarily about being the best candidate on paper. It's about being the best fit. So you have to be able to sell yourself. You need to be able to tell someone why they're going to benefit from you, why their organization is going to benefit from you being hired. We make the mistake in interviews of trying to brag and tell people why we're so good, right? Everybody's doing that, okay? There's always going to be someone who's better than you. What you need to do is you need to prove to them why you are the best fit for the job, why you add the most value, because ultimately it's about why you add value to the organization, not why you're the best. And the quicker you can understand that, the faster you're going to get hired, okay? But the strengths finder, the reason why that's so important is because you need to know what value you bring to a company. And when you know that, you can be very clear about it, right? Just like, I think it was Clifford who asked the question, like, what do I put on my headline, right? Everybody wants to see a clear headline. They don't want a lot of things on there. If I see someone's headline that has 10 things on there, I say, okay, so what do you do, right? If I see one thing on there, I know exactly what you do, right? So it's very, very important to understand what you do well. That is the most important question you're going to answer on any interview. And if you can answer that question, everything else, quite honestly, is not as important. So, as we're talking about networking, as we're wrapping up and talking about like LinkedIn and things like that, right? The best LinkedIn profiles are focused. And you know what they're focused on? They're focused on what the person does well, right? Think of it like this. When you watch a commercial, you know what you're going to judge the commercial on? How clear it is. If I watch a commercial and my answer afterwards is, I don't remember what they talked about, right? Because the commercial was not clear, right? I may not buy that, but I want it to be clear. You, as a commercial, need to be clear. The reason why is whenever you're confusing, when someone asks you, why should I hire you? And your answer is confusing, you know what the answer is from the employer? No. Not no because you're not good. It's no because I don't understand you, right? So even if an employer says no to hiring you, but you were very clear about it, you can walk away with a lot of peace because you let them know, if you hire me, this is what you're going to get. If that's not what you're looking for, that's okay. I'll go somewhere else. But if the person says, but I don't know what you do, I don't know who you are, you're not memorable, right? Then you got yourself fired, right? So when it comes to networking, my encouragement to you is build your network before you need it. Because when you need a job and you don't have a network, you're in trouble, okay? And how to do that digitally, just study some of the things that are going on in LinkedIn. Like you'll see it, it's always evolving, My last thing would be that, I welcome all requests on LinkedIn. So if you want to connect with me, type my name in. I think the link is back in the chat somewhere too. It's very easy. I will accept everyone's request, and you can message me from there, and so we can keep in touch. But your network is the most important career asset you're going to have throughout your career. It doesn't matter. I'll argue anyone on that. So if you're not already on LinkedIn and you're not building it, start today. That's where you need to be. Yeah. Besides that, I thank you guys for staying up a little bit late. I know it's later on your side, but I hope that what I said was beneficial for you. My encouragement to you is don't just be inspired. You need to take some action. And I say that because that's what I'm about. So take one thing that I said and go do it. Don't feel good about yourself for a week and then forget what I said. Take one thing I said and go do it, like now, like before you go to sleep tonight. And then you'll be getting better. So
as we wrap up, can you guys kindly open your cameras so that you can take a screenshot of this event?
Oh, like last thoughts?
Yeah, I want you guys to open their cameras so that you can take a screenshot of this.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see. You want people to come on camera. Oh, I see.
Yeah. So yeah, we have a little thank you notes in the comment section. Yeah, guys, Eric is saying thank you for the session. I was taking notes of almost everything you said, like subtitles. So yeah, Emmanuel is saying I've learned a lot. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for the session.
Oh, you're welcome.
I don't know. Yeah, we've learned a lot.
Good. Well, good luck to you guys. And like I said, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I don't bite. So, feel free to reach out there and I'll connect. And if you want to message me something that you didn't ask.
I'll send you a message on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I've also followed you.
All right. I look forward to keeping in touch. All right. Take care, everyone. I'll see you.